Today we're going to take a look at pumps and a variety of different pumps. I got a request from a user and he asked if a water pump can be converted to switch adapted. Now there's a lot of different pumps available on Amazon and whatnot, and so I'm like, oh yeah, we'll give it a try. So the one that he was looking at first is actually developed to move liquids like beer or kombucha or other stuff from one container to another. So it has, comes with the little hose stuff and everything, and then it uses this sort of pump. Now, this pump, and it's got a USB connector on the other side for power, so it's going to run 5 volts. So that's handy. Now, this sort of pump is an impeller type pump. So it's the most common you're going to find, and there's basically a disc-like thing with fins that spin inside there and will move the water. And some of them are self-priming and some of them aren't. This one is self-priming, and it does have a little diaphragm in here which prevents backflow, which is helpful. But there's a problem with impeller pumps, and especially if you're dealing with uh, something like okay, if you were dispensing a medication, and again, this is not for medication, this is not for medical use. Let me make that perfectly clear. Um, but the thing is with the impeller pump is it's actually touching the liquid. So if the liquid was caustic, for example, it could burn out the impeller, or you can get dirty, things like that. And I'll cover what you do about that in just a moment. But let's finish up this guy first. So normally, what this comes with is the length of cord and a little switch attached in the middle like that. Now this is a toggle switch. It's on and off. So you press it once, stays on until you press it again, turns off like a light switch. So that's fine. But we wanted to have a momentary 3.5 millimeter eighth inch switch jack like one of these hooked to it. So I popped it open, and if you're doing this at home, this is relatively easy to get open. This is one of the easier things to adapt. If you have one of these little tools or credit card or something, you can give the thing a squeeze, get your tool in there and start sliding it open. It's just press fit. So there's 4 little points in here that hold it together. So it's press fit. So take your time and just pop it off. Inside there is a good sized cheapo switch. But the good thing with the cheapo switch is that it's got good solder points for that. So, and there's my cat talking. And so what I did is I took one of my infamous pigtails that I use these all the time for adapting because they're so much easier, and I soldered it into place. The only other thing I had to do was on one end I needed to make this hole a little bit bigger to let my other new cable come through. You could use a drill for that. What I found is I use my heat insert soldering iron with a insert that allows you to just kind of melt plastic. So all I did was melted the plastic. It worked out pretty well. It's the first time I've really done that with this sort of thing, and it worked out pretty cleanly. So here you have kind of a nice, straightforward. So let me move all this other stuff out of the way. Let me plug this into some power. And so here's the pump, and here's the regular switch. There it is running. And the 2 sounds you're hearing the little rubber diaphragms flipping back and forth inside, in addition to the rotation. So that's pretty straightforward there. And let me put in my switch adapted switch. There we go. Works like a charm. So this is, if you're looking to, let's say if you wanted to have some sort of switch adapted watering of plants, that would be a common one. There's a big push for folks to be able to like take care of their own plants inside their homes with an adapted device. This, I think, is a good choice. It's on Amazon. I'm not sure how much this one runs because I didn't purchase it, but it does come with the hose, which is handy, and a little filter, which is even handier. That's pretty much required for an impeller type pump. So that's that. So what's the other option? The other option is a peristaltic pump. And these are a little bit different. This is a very common one you see on Amazon. It's about $10. It has a motor and then it has the pump assembly. Well, how is this different besides the way that it looks? It's also bare, so you have to put it in an enclosure. Well, let's take a look at a slightly different one, same kind of pump, but a different brand. And this is clear, so it's cool. You can actually see how it works. So what you have here is, instead of a regular impeller, what it does is it uses a piece of flexible hose inside, and it uses 3 or 4 rollers, usually 3. This one has 3. And the rollers will press against the flexible tubing. And so what you'll see is this is for very fine dosage. It self primes. You could run it backwards or forwards, and it doesn't touch the liquid, and that's key for a lot of uses. Where if you don't want any chance of the liquid getting messed up, the peristaltic pump is what you want. The downside on these is that they're slower. They do not have any sort of serious pump rate. So if you're trying to like move beer from one container to another, while this is going to be a lot cleaner, it's going to be a lot slower. But if you're looking for more safety in your handling, or let's say that you're doing very small dosages of something, like, okay, I just need like 20 drops, or I need a certain amount, this is the route you go. Now, these two pumps are the same. They're just different brands. This one's clear, and this one is less expensive and has the opaque cover. They can both be taken apart. You can replace the tubing and clean it out real well. So, from a size standpoint, this one's a little bit bigger and a little more complicated to set up. So, for my horticultural usage, I'm going to be making and selling these guys. So what I've done with this pump is I made an enclosure, and I have the enclosure, the pump is on one side, and a power for USB-C, and then the input jack. Now remember, when you buy this from Amazon, all you get is this. Okay. So that's why I had to do the enclosure, because I needed everything nice and wrapped up. Now, there's an even more important reason why I had to do the enclosure. While this pump, this earlier one, this impeller pump we saw, is, it's funny. It's rated at 12 volts, but they actually run it at 5. These I tested. They are also rated at 12 volts. So you can see on the side, 12 volts. But I put it on my bench power supply, and I went to see how low they can go. And realistically, these will not work properly below about 7 volts. So it really needs something closer to the 12 volts. Well, okay, we want to run it on USB because everything the user uses is on USB. But USB is 5 volts, not 12. What do you do? Well, you get a boost board, and unfortunately this one is kind of buried in here. This is another Amazon El Cheapo part. These boards are about, I don't know, a couple bucks at most. And what a boost board does, there's buck and there's boost. Buck brings voltages down, boost brings them up. Boost is the more obvious. So this is a boost board, and it will take an input voltage down to about 5 volts, or actually about 3.5, 4, and it will boost it potentially all the way up to 28 volts. Now that's theoretical. In reality, it's a lot harder to take a low voltage and push things that high and keep the amperage. You lose the current. So in this setup, I have adjusted, there's a little adjustment thing in here where I have adjusted it so that it outputs about 10 volts, which should be good enough to run the motor, but not so much as to overload the USB. The other thing I have is a little tiny USB breakout board that handles the connection to the USB, and then I have my infamous TRRS jacks. These guys I use all the time, all over the place, to actually handle the switch motion. So real simple wiring. The positive, the V bus from the USB goes up to one part of the switch, the other to the jack here. The other side goes to the positive input, which is hidden, unfortunately, and then ground from USB to ground on this, on the boost board, on the one side of the boost board, which is under the motor, and then the other side, this is the output side, and this is outputting, in my case, 10 volts. So, and then that is soldered up into the motor. Now for my production ones that I've done, I've actually done quick connects, JST connectors between the motor and the board, because you don't want the motor hooked to the output of the board while you are setting the voltage, because you want to you have your voltmeter and you need to adjust it, and you don't want to suddenly send 25 volts to this poor little motor. It'll burn it out. So I have it disconnected, I get the voltage that I like, and then I reconnect it, and we're good to go. So long story short, here is the enclosure with the top, and the way that this connects, these motors just come with these very short pieces, but they do come with these bayonet style connectors. So you jam one end into one part of the hose, and then you purchase some other hose. This hose is silicone hose. It's flexible. It's food safe. It's 3 millimeters inside, roughly 5 millimeters out. In other words, this is 1/8 inch tubing. So most of the metric stuff, even though it's listed as metric, was originally imperial measurements. So this one is 1/8 inch. What I did find with this one, if you did go with this one, which I do kind of like it because it looks pretty cool, while it's rated for 1/8 inch tubing, I could not for the life of me get that tubing in there. So what I did is I purchased some 4 millimeter ID, and I think it's 5 or 6 outside, which gave me that extra millimeter, and I was able to hook it up. So again, if you're going to go with this pump, go with a slightly larger hose. It's a good idea the hose is relatively inexpensive, so it's a good idea to have a supply of different common sizes on hand if you're working on this stuff. And let's see, so let me show how this pump sounds and looks since we're here. Now this, here's the USB power, and here we have the jack, and there it is. And you could also tell these pumps are much quieter. So you'll see these a lot in like IV setups and things like that. So there you go. So it's pretty cool. Now again, these are lower flow. The other one is going to be higher flow. So I think that's it for pumps at the moment. If I think of something more, I'll post it. But long story short, if you're doing simple stuff, I'd say, you know, this guy is perfectly fine. It's an impeller pump, so it could get dirty. You might have to take it apart and clean it. If you want something that's a little segregates out the liquid from the pump, go with the peristaltic pumps. They're just going to be probably better all around, but they're more of a hassle because you got to build the enclosure, you got to wire it all up and whatnot. So if you were just starting out with like doing plants or whatnot, get one of, you know, get this one here that has all of it together and see if it works out for you. It's real easy to adapt. And then as you go forward, you could look at the more sophisticated pumps and go from there. So, but man, this video's gone longer than I thought, but there's a lot to say about pumps. Thanks for watching.